All right, y'all notice what's missing here? Same back there. We're doing a shock video. So Shock Therapy and all these other companies talk about why you need to get springs done and why you need to send your stuff off to them and all that. Seems pretty straightforward, but let's go into more detail. So in my X3 6-month review video, I talked about how these springs absolutely suck donkey ass. And it's true. I have 500 miles on this car, and that thing has already dropped 4 inches of ground clearance. And okay, 4 inches of ground clearance, yeah, that sucks if you're rock crawling, but if you're just in the desert or dunes or whatever, 4 inches, whatever, you still got downward travel, right? Well, wrong. Let's break down why exactly this sucks and why losing 4 inches of ground clearance is such an issue. So basically how suspension works is you have your shock shaft here, and then you have, well, with these internal bypass shocks, like these RC2s, you have your shock body, which is this right here. You have your main, like the main shock body here, and then you have the outer shock body here with bypass valving. Basically, this is off a dirt bike. This is a dirt bike piston. And you have it just like this. At the end, this is shock shaft. This right here is your piston. And then you have your compression valving and rebound valving. And basically what that looks like is a stack, kind of like this, of these shims that super thin. They bend as oil will go through these ports one way, and then as it's passing through down this way around these shims, it'll bend it. And basically that's where your compression dampening and rebound dampening comes from. So the problem with losing ride height with bypass shocks, okay, suspension's traveling up and down like this in the shock body. Not a big deal whether it's higher or lower, but how these bypass shocks work is that it's basically it's 2 stages of valving. So primary stage, small bumps and all that, it's just traveling up and down like this. And then once you get up into up higher into the stroke, doing this one-handed, up in here, oil will instead be going, instead of going through the compression stack, it'll be going down here and then up into the bypass circuit. And so, getting back to the springs, if you lose a little bit of travel, instead of sitting in the primary circuit where it's nice and smooth and the valving is nice and light, you're riding more into the rigid, harsh valving, and so it's going to be way harsher feel. So hopefully that makes sense, because basically this valving is way stiffer than the valving in here, because on a hard hit you want it to get progressively stiffer and progressively tighter suspension. But yeah, so that's basically how it works. Instead of having your nice light valving for the small bumps, you're going to be riding up in here in the harsh valving. It's going to feel way more chattery, which is the case for mine. To address it, for the last race, we cranked in on the preload quite a bit, but it just made it super harsh because it didn't act the way that these springs are supposed to act. And even then, we were still only sitting at 14 inches of ride height. So to address this, I got the shocks off the car, and I'm sending them down to Vital Motion Co. in Vegas. And very experienced by racers, for racers, and play cars and all that. He does everything from side-by-sides to like Ford Raptors and road trucks to full-on trophy trucks and king shocks and external bypass and all that stuff.
Tomorrow. work good? All right.
The biggest thing I notice is the whoopsies. When you hit something big, when you're not expecting it, it's a lot. It just feels more safe.
Right.
I don't feel like, I don't know.
Like it's not going to pitch you to one side or the other?
Yeah, not like bottom out.
Something.
Yeah, like bottom out. You feel any bottoming? Because I don't see any marks. Like, I mean,
not any hard bottoms.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may have not even used all the suspension. Okay, so just did the first shakedown. Holy crap, it's so much better. It's a little harsh because I'm hitting here by myself for right now, but yeah, so we're gonna compare. I'm gonna get a bunch of video outside the car of going through whoops and turns and jumps and that sort of thing, and like hard braking, hard cornering, just trying to get this thing as good as possible and sending video to the suspension guy. So I'll do the side-by-side comparison next, so stay tuned. All right, so final thoughts on getting the suspension done. Like I said before, it was a little harsh and chattery when I was by myself in some of the slower speed, rough, but you know, small bumps, less than 6 inches high. It was actually almost a little harsher than it was before, but that's because 3 really big factors. So 1, I told him spring it for racing and valve it for racing. I wanted it harsh because I want to be able to hit bumps at 80 miles an hour. For the average person, they usually spring it and valve it a lot softer than that. Second reason, this guy, when you hang, 60 pounds off the rear between the bumper and the spare tire and all the tools and everything, 70 pounds, that changes things a lot. I didn't have this on there when we were testing before and filming. And the third thing, which is the biggest, is the absence of my 200-pound co-driver. So to address that, we ended up going out again since putting the spare on there and all that. Unfortunately, I didn't film it. We just did a really quick blast, and we were fighting weather and time and all that stuff, so I just wanted to go do a quickie. And yeah, we went out on the low speed just a little bit, and then we're gonna do a proper suspension tune before the next race. But yeah, so the gist of it, my overall opinions, like I said, we went straight from stock to springs and valving, and I genuinely think that's the best way to go. If you're racing and you're hitting stuff at speed, or you're going to big dunes and Glamis, or you're hitting big whoops and you're going on long rides and all that, highly, highly, highly recommend valving and springs. But you know, if you're maybe rock crawling, or you're just kind of a cheeseball dooner person like I was with my old Razor, maybe not. Maybe save the money and just do springs. Definitely recommend springs. But if you want your car to work as best as it can and how it's supposed to, get it valved, spend the extra money. That is the best money you can spend on these things. Don't do stereos and big tires and all that stuff. Your stereo is just gonna piss everyone off around you that you're riding with. You're not gonna hear it when you're riding. Yeah, I mean, there's so many dumb mods that people do to these things that you don't necessarily need. Do suspension before you do an exhaust. Like, I mean, I have an exhaust on this, but I don't notice a difference in power. Yeah, it's maybe 5 horsepower or something, but anyway, if you want to go as fast as you possibly can and you want to get the best out of your machine, do valving, have your shocks set up right. So if you do springs, then the valving is going to be way too soft is the only problem with doing it that way. You can do it that way. It's definitely not ideal, because basically with whether it's dirt bike shocks or road stuff, like on street cars or off-road stuff like this, you should be doing valving if you're doing springs to make everything match, because you're matching the valving for the exact spring rate, and that's how you do it right. It should be done that way. But like I said, if you're really balling on a budget, you can get away with springs, but I don't know. I personally think the single best thing you can do to get the most performance and be able to go the fastest, whether you're in the rough dunes and you're hitting G-outs or whoops and that sort of thing, or you're like, especially if there's a witch's eye or something like that, get your valving done and get the springs done. With this specific application, I would say my biggest takeaway was that I can hit that hard stuff way faster and don't have to worry about it kicking the back end up like these X3s are famous for. This thing jumps super flat now. It soaks up stuff in the rear really, really well, whereas normally you'd hit a bump and the front would suck it up and then the back would bottom out and rebound kick, because they have so much damn travel in the rear. But yeah, so I can jump without being terrified of endoing now, which was not the case before, and just use all the travel. It's not, I don't know, before it felt like it was just blowing through the stroke on the first few inches of suspension travel, and then the later stages of it were what was being used the most, especially watching back that race footage where every bump the wheels were coming up into the frame of the camera, where like you can tell it's bottoming out pretty damn hard everywhere. And now it's just more comfortable going fast. It's just more predictable, it's safer, and just, I don't know, it just feels right. I can hit stuff harder. I just feel a lot more confident in my driving, and I'm not as scared of what's around the next bend. If there's a hard G out or something like that, I can just give it a little bit of throttle and motor over something hard instead of having to worry about if I'm going to blow through the stroke and then get kicked up in endo and land on the roof like what happened in the YXC. So anyway, that's the gist of it. You can do springs if you want, at least do that. I definitely recommend spending a little bit of extra money and getting the valving done before you spend money on things like tires and, I don't know, all that you don't necessarily need. Did I do it in the right order? No. I did exhaust first. I did fancy powder coated stuff. I did the intercom and radio system and navigation system and all that, and lights, and yeah, probably should have done this about a year ago. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm gonna try to do more of these type of review videos of trying to give my opinion. Am I an expert? No. Am I a professional racer? No. But I have years of off-road experience from motocross and supercross to this kind of stuff to a little bit of truck stuff and all that. And so trying to give my opinion as best I can, but not present myself as an all-knowing expert. But yeah, so I'm just a fellow budget baller and trying to save you guys some money. And I don't know, I've learned a lot from YouTube, so trying to spread the word on, I don't know, teaching people from my mistakes, I guess. So anyway, thanks for watching. Peace.